All right, hello and welcome everybody. Good evening. Adam Rogers here with Paul Palango. This is Dispersing the Fog, episode 48 here, February 15th, 2026.
Stop!
Oh. What?
February 15th.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to
Ooh.
me. Happy birthday.
Dear
Well,
Paul All.
yeah. My mother wanted to have me on Valentine's Day, and I held on to her ribs and wouldn't come out until the next morning.
Does that mean, well, happy birthday, Paul. You're looking very sprightly for whatever age you might be. So does that you held off until after Valentine's Day? So does that mean you're not a romantic guy that celebrates Valentine's Day?
Well, no, every day. Well, for me and Sharon, Valentine's Day is every day.
Wow. Well
I
said.
think Valentine's Day is a corporate solution to mediocre relationships. And the other reason I'm happy not to be born on Valentine's Day is that when I was in grade school in Hamilton, there was a kid in my class, Larry Savelli, who was born on Valentine's Day. And every day, Valentine's Day, he'd come in and all the girls would buy him chocolates.
Yeah.
Then at the first recess, all the guys would kick the crap out of him. So I thought, there, but for the grace of God, go I. The next day, I would just slide by.
Well, you know what, Paul? People that have their birthday right around Christmas get all this, sympathy from people, but it's the Valentine's Day birthdays, I think you're right, that are really the really
Yeah.
the hard done bys.
And the downside of having your birthday, then you can't go out to a restaurant or anywhere because they're all booked up with mediocre meals, usually pretty expensive, can't get in, and it's sort of a wipeout. So yeah, I gotta, if I want to celebrate, I either do it at home or delay it for some time.
Yeah. Well, there you go. It's well, happy birthday. Listen, we have lots to get into. We have a guest coming, Paul, later on the show. I'll just tell everybody, Melissa Ellsworth. People probably won't recognize that name that may not know Melissa Ellsworth, but you're going to want to hear this. It's an important story, so we'll just tease that a little bit
Yeah,
while we
with
get. Yeah,
everything going on this week, there's a lot of things we can talk about
yeah,
in depth, but a lot of it can hold over because we have to do this thing today.
yeah. We got to do this. We're going to talk though a little bit about Tumbler Ridge and of course the announcement by Public Safety Minister Gary Anandasandri. And those two things are not unrelated, I will say, and I think you'll probably agree with that, Paul. But yeah, how are things going otherwise? Anything else on the go this week?
I've been busy all week. I did with the Tumbler Ridge shooting, school shooting. I ended up doing a couple of radio spots on a station in Toronto. And today, I understand Calvin Lawrence, our guest from last week, wrote a really great piece. I don't know if you got it yesterday. I think I may have sent it to you. Calvin wrote a piece about what the police should be doing and how we should be looking at what happened in Tumbler Ridge. It was so good, I passed it on to Alex Pearson, the talk show host in Toronto, and she was so impressed. She had Calvin on today.
Well, I think Calvin's perspective. I read that it was really well done and a good perspective. Really, it's taking a step back from the immediacy of the situation and looking at the what
Yeah, and
else needs to be
maybe we'll
done.
have Calvin back next week or the week after because this isn't a story that's going to go away all that quickly.
No, no, it's not. There was, yeah, it was a vigil held. There's been lots of sort of breaking news here and there. Do you want to get into that now, Paul, or do you have a few other
Sure,
things?
go ahead.
Well, I guess the some of the news that's coming out is that the RCMP announced there was some question as to whether the shotgun that was used was one that had been seized from the home and then returned. Because that was one of the early news stories, right? That
Yeah.
there was something that the police knew about. Well, the police on Friday announced that that was not the case, that the shotgun that was used in the killings was not something that they had um, seized previously, which Hear what you had, that kind of tells me is that they think at this point that it can't be proven that they knew anything about it, at least.
Well, geez, like looking at, I was on the radio and Alex Pearson asked me what, at the end of the interview, what question is lingers in your mind? And I said this is before the name was, the shooter's name was even announced. I said, well, my question is, what did the RCMP know before the shootings, and when did they know it?
Yeah.
And I'm still not clear on what they knew and what they didn't know because as the Calvin Lawrence piece you've read, he is sort of suggesting they're playing games with um, their response.
Yeah. Now let's say this also. I think they're getting credit for, rushing into the scene as, headlong, without hesitation, kind of an approach to the school. I'll be interested. I mean, I guess it turned out to be not irrelevant, but unhelpful because I think the shooter had already killed themselves at that point. But I guess credit for that anyway.
Well, there were, if you look at the map, the RCMP detachment is about a kilometer away from the school. It's a small town. There's virtually no traffic there at that time. They were there in 2 minutes because it's only 2 minutes away.
Yeah.
And I'm still not clear. There was a statement about, right off the bat, the RCMP said, "Oh, our officers are traumatized by what happened." Yeah, I know, but that you're not the victims here. It's still the same. Oh, we're the victims. And secondly, I'm not sure that, I saw a statement where they said, "Oh, the gunman fired, the gun person fired at us." And then went to school and committed suicide. I didn't think that didn't seem plausible to me in the story, and I'm not clear if that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. It'll be well, we'll see. These kind of details, I guess, are going to come out, but you hit one of the other storylines, of course, gun person. We don't know which way to go with this, I guess. But the shooter was identified as trans, and I see the CBC's going by one name, other outlets going anyway. That's a
Well,
situation too.
his biological father said his name was always Jesse Strang,
Yeah,
and the media is going with Jesse von Rootseller.
yeah,
Um, I think it's a very troubled situation. I mean, it's without even knowing a lot of details. The his mother who he killed. Well, she was in a house where she cherished guns. She called herself a libertarian. And, she ended up with the same, he got his guns back for some reason, or the guns came back to the house after he had an incident where he almost burned down the house. There may have been two instances where he almost burned down the house
yeah,
and was on probation according to his own Reddit. And like other mothers, similar mothers, like Adam Lanza in Newtown, Connecticut, killed his mother, Nancy, before he went to the school and killed him. The guy in Uvalde shot his grandmother, didn't kill her, but then went into Uvalde. And the point you're making, well, we're going to find out. Well, this is Canada. In Uvalde, we eventually found out a lot of things. That a lot, the police said this is what we did, and it turned out they didn't do any of that stuff. They stood outside the school. Some were eventually charged criminally. I think one was convicted. All kinds of fallout. In Canada, that tends not to happen. I'd love to see a post-mortem on what exactly happened and what the training was, and a real explanation for why they got the guns back.
yes. The first news story that came out about the guns going back was that the true owner, quote unquote, requested them back, which tells me that I think there was just the three of them in the house. That it was the mum that was the true owner of the guns and requested them back and was given them back. So, like, if she had survived or had not been a target, Paul, I think this would have been a case similar to the one in Michigan and one in Maine that we talked about on the show previously, where parents were charged as
Yep.
accessories to these crimes. I think she would have been in that category. Just
Oh,
a
absolutely.
little bit that
But,
we
you
know.
know, she's a libertarian, you know. A libertarian is an anarchist with a bank account. You know,
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
don't want
really.
any rules, any regulations, but they want to go to your hospitals, drive on your roads, and they'll probably homeschool. But you know, the child wasn't in school. The kid wasn't in school for the last 4 years since he
Four
was
years, yeah.
14. Yeah, so it sounds to me like you hate to say speak uh, about the dead in such a way, but I think she was a poor mother based on what I could see. And I mean, yes, the kid had problems, but I didn't see this as the kind of mother was going to, who was sort of she was the kind of mother who seemed to be uh, accentuating the problems rather than dealing with them and making tough decisions, you know?
Well, it's there was the other piece of information that came out was that she had attempted in recent years to have the children to tr take the family take the children that is back to her home province of Newfoundland and was unsuccessful in that application. So that tells me that there was enough of a connection to the biological father, either through visits or something, at least
Yeah.
to hold the children there. But again, another sign of instability, making trying to make those kinds of decisions, that's not usually
Well,
a good thing for
she
the
was
kids.
also, I think the husband or the father of the shooter referred to her as a nomad. That she was, she wasn't very rooted or whatever. Although others said, "Oh, she was a great worker and she did this and that." The
Okay,
evidence
well,
suggests otherwise, you know?
yeah, and so again, we may find out more. You know, the transgender stuff is complicated, and in this case, and I think in many cases, there seems to be a mental illness element to it, whether it's from a mental illness that a person thinks they're, in the wrong body or has this situation, or if it's, you have that legitimate situation and that seems to generate, feelings of depression and other mental illnesses, one
Well,
way
for
or the other,
sure.
you know?
National Institute of Health study shows that, the many people in this situation, like, going through a gender change when they're in puberty, which
Yeah.
is like unbelievable. Like, they're finding four or five comorbidities psychiatrically, like
Yeah.
all kinds of problems. Increased bipolar disorder, psychotic disorders, schizophrenia affective disorders in transgender adults. Plus, they had a history of substance abuse, alcohol, some with cannabis, whatever. He almost burned the house down with magic mushrooms 3 years ago. So it sort of fits that you have all these problems. Why did the guns end up back in the house?
Yeah.
You know, if you got somebody who's this mentally off center, um,
Yeah.
who was the judge? Who was the JP who did it?
Yeah, that's going to be a troubling thing, right? I mean, this came up in the Desmond inquiry, how little attention is paid to mental illness when making gun decisions like that. And I think that's where most Canadians would be is, well, if you have an unpredictable mental illness in that sense, then there shouldn't be guns in the house. They shouldn't be accessible to you.
No, absolutely. And the other thing to point out is that, and I did this on the first time I was on Alex Pearson in Toronto, before any of the details came out, other than that he was probably a transgender male, female, that the number of mass shootings in the United States and Canada since say 2014 are probably approaching 7,000
Wow.
mass shootings, four people or more.
Yeah.
And the number of bona fide transgender shooters is probably five, six, 10 at the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what about the other 7,000, mostly males, a few females? What about them? And if people are going to make an issue of it, it's transgender people doing this. Yes, they're disturbed. Yes, they have a tendency to mental issues. They shouldn't have guns, but that should be said of a lot of people.
No, exactly, right? Like,
Yeah.
and the I would say I would put it this way that the focus and maybe the language of transgender individuals is becoming more prominent and evolving, but it's not like they weren't around. Like
Yeah,
this, sometimes this generation and younger, they think they're the first people to see anything. Well, you're not.
yeah,
We've seen it too. You know, it's
yeah.
been
We've actually seen things before we were born. We go back and study them, unlike people
well that
nowadays.
yeah,
We know about movies that were from before we were born and songs from before we were 12, you know?
yeah, yeah, and the gender fluidity has been around. David Bowie was around a long time ago. Okay,
Yeah, go to
so
Go to Thailand. It's been there a long time.
so Paul, no, sorry. Well, I was go that this ties into another story. We can come back to other details of this, but it ties into another story, in my view, at least, because this week, Thursday, I think it was, Public Safety Minister Gary Ananda Sanderi announced that, listen, folks, the RCMP is here to stay. They are going to be and continue to be what they are to us as Canadians. They will be your police force. And, whatever, whatever the reports say, whatever the recommendations of the Mass Casualty Commission, uh, I guess this government is on the side of the RCMP. You're shocked?
No, that's been obvious that they're trying all they can to keep the RCMP. I don't know how that's going to work in Alberta and even Saskatchewan and BC, where there's moves afoot to get them out of there and create their own provincial police forces. And I also hear that it's interesting you brought that up, but I also hear that through the back door, Nova Scotia made this commitment to the RCMP, what, a year or two ago, saying, Premier Houston, the RCMP are here to stay. I understand through sources close to the government that they're now having second thoughts about that, that they're
Well,
starting to see that there are problems.
well, it's never too late to have a second thought, I guess. It's so to me, here's an aspect of this. I mean, there's the substance of it, which we can talk about. We should talk about a little more, but the timing of this. Okay, so after the Tumbler Ridge shootings, Prime Minister Mark Carney, who was supposed to make a big defense announcement in Halifax, said, no, I'm going to cancel that announcement. And then he was supposed to go to the Munich Security Conference in Germany, where he was bound to be feted and lauded for his big Davos speech again. I'm sure he was looking forward to the trip, and he canceled them both. But in the middle of all this Tumbler Ridge stuff, here's the government's public safety minister announcing this about the RCMP on the heels of reports coming in that the RCMP dove headlong into the school to face this dangerous situation. Uh, you know, are they taking advantage of a moment? Should they have put off the announcement? I don't know. That's seems like that's what the prime minister was doing. Why not the public safety minister?
Yeah, it's terrible because there's all kinds of studies saying this is not the way it should be going, and people can see it in who are paying attention, and look to what's going on in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and even BC. That there are no, they're being moved out of municipal jobs. You know, Grand Prairie just moved over, and other Alberta communities are sort of on the verge of doing that as well, getting the RCMP out and creating their own municipal police forces.
People may be wondering, well, what about this Mass Casualty Commission with its big budget, millions of dollars, that recommended quite strongly that the RCMP be replaced, or at least that politicians look at replacing it? That's they just ignored it, I guess.
Oh,
That's
just ignored it. Completely
yeah,
ignored
makes
it.
you wonder. I mean, and I talked about this during the inquiry as well, that there's legal and political aspects of it. I guess I'm thinking more and more that it's leaning on the political side with legal elements to it because
Yep.
it has legal, I guess, frameworks. It has witnesses, although the Mass Casualty Commission didn't do the cross-examination very often. But what it doesn't have is the key crucial element of enforcement. I mean, there's no right without a remedy, and if you can't enforce the recommendations of an inquiry, then really, in a way, it's no different than a report from a think tank or a union or a recommendation from or a study from a chamber of commerce. the government, if they like it, they can take the recommendations, and if they don't feel the public is behind it, then they can ignore it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the plan all along was to ignore the recommendations of the MCC. I mean, the whole plan was to shape the RCMP to protect it, and then they gave awards to the people who weren't there, you know? The RCMP who did nothing to stop the shooter in Nova Scotia, well, they gave out awards. Imagine 300 Mounties were nominated. One third of the Mounties in the province were nominated to get awards for their performance, which, as I said last week, Corporal Tim Mills turned it down. I wonder who else turned it down, you know?
Well, I wonder, I mean, as far as a percentage of officers that were nominated and received awards, I guess maybe you'd say it's fairly low. But then, anyway, I have a lot of questions like who evaluated these?
Yeah.
And did they think, well, at least we didn't give everybody an award? Or what was their mindset behind looking at those requests?
Um, I've just sent Melissa a note, told her we were running a few minutes late here.
Okay.
Um, the other stories that, just touch on them. The Toronto police case, York Region investigation of Toronto police, more heads rolled this week, suspended. Find out that one of the sergeants was selling uniforms, trying to sell Toronto police uniforms.
Oh boy.
Speaking of the Mass Casualty Commission and people dressed up as policemen. None of that's sunk in. I mean, we have real, a sergeant in one of the largest police forces in Canada selling uniforms and hanging out with criminals and doing criminal acts. Unbelievable.
And if they sold the uniforms, I guess they could cut out the middleman in a way and they don't need to get
Yep.
the cooperation of a legitimate police officer, just have somebody dress up as one.
Yep.
Jeez.
And then you were mentioning before you had a case before we went on air about a
Oh
Jordan
yeah.
case.
Yeah, so Friday, that's what I was up to. It was to make an application on a delay issue, right? So beyond 30 months. And anyway, the court was able actually in this case to find earlier dates, so the application is not going ahead right now. But yeah, that's I mean, one of the Supreme Court says in Jordan and other cases that it doesn't matter how serious the case is, if it's over the limit, then that's the issue. So homicide or otherwise, that's the but yeah, 30 months. The original trial dates were set at or they were retrial dates, not retrial, but new trial dates set at 44 months. But they pulled it back within a closer time frame.
And then the interesting thing this week, from my perspective, on that very point, RCMP and Quebec police are raided, 160 officers involved in these raids, seizing drugs, weapons, and everything in Quebec and New Brunswick. And then there was another series of raids yesterday going on, but no arrests. And so I asked around, why no arrests? Well, because of the Jordan rulings that you have to have a trial within 30 months of your arrest, the
Yes.
police are now building up all the evidence and all the disclosure. Then they'll arrest the person that they want to arrest. That's what they seem to be doing.
Okay, well, here's how that's gonna go. So I would say that if that is suspected, what'll what'll evolve is this. There'll be a case taken where somebody will say, okay, there'll be a discoverability question. The person, okay, was arrested on this date. They should have been arrested. The police knew enough to arrest 2 months prior. Maybe tough to prove. But if everybody's sort of caught on the scene and known to be a party to the offense or strongly suspected to be, and in a position to be arrested, then that evidence will start to come forward if the police start using these kind of tactics. Because yeah, it would be clearly manipulating the rules to avoid the court's decision in Jordan.
And I understand that part of the raids, the reason for the raids in New Brunswick and Quebec is the RCMP and Quebec police are still looking for a missing full patch member of the Hells Angels who disappeared in 2008. and is believed to have been buried, possibly with heavy machinery, deep, deep, deep down near Edmundston, St. Anne de Madawaska, New Brunswick. So they're looking for this guy, Mario Bergeron. They think they know where he is. I think they know who killed him and stuff. And that's going on. And then one last point before we move on. The Magic Pumpkin in our year ender a couple of weeks ago pointed to Harley Gwindone, the leader of the Satan's Choice, the rivals of the Hells Angel. He's a former Hells Angel. His father was a creator of Satan's Choice. This week, I said he's been bad-mouthing the Hells Angels on Facebook. This week, there's been a number of incidents ran in Ontario, Hamilton area, I think Oshawa, and maybe down here where places shot up. His business has been attacked. It's heating up, as I predicted was going to heat up, and it's actually going on. There's nothing in the papers about it, but it's on sort of the drum line, I guess, whatever it is. It's people are talking about it who know these things.
The pumpkin comes through again. It's
Pumpkin comes true. So let's move forward. Melissa's waiting.
has a good track record. She is no, she's not in the waiting room just yet. So let's once she clicks on the link there, we can bring her in.
I'll
Well,
tell her that.
yeah, just tell her that, Paul, and
Uh,
yeah, while while you're doing that, I'll get your opinion on there was a Supreme Court case. I'll tell you quickly about a Nova Scotia case, and I'll stop when she comes into the waiting room there.
yeah.
Uh, the issue turned on whether pretending to saw somebody in half, like a magic act, is sexual in nature. And I know you have strong feelings on that, Paul, so maybe I'll go to you on it. Are
Say
you a fan of magic?
it. Well, I once met Penn and Teller in
Oh,
on Broadway in New York, and my daughter went up on one of my daughters went up on stage. That's as close as I've got to magic. I'm not a very good magician, and I really sort of lose interest in it very quickly.
no, no doubt. Well, because it's fake, like sawing somebody in half. But this guy
Yep.
apparently had a bit of a fetish about the whole thing. Well, he enjoyed it, and it wasn't so he wasn't charged with sexual assault, but there was a question of whether he was exploiting the young ladies that he was paying to do these. He would pretend to saw them in half or take
Uh,
pictures of them in these poses. So
Melissa says she hasn't have the forwarded emails. It was stripped. I asked you to send it again. Can you send it, please?
sure, yeah. All right. The so let's just
I gave you the. If it does, so we're just waiting for Melissa to come here, and I should
yeah.
tell you like where she contacted me in 2022 about the Nova Scotia massacres, and she worked in the jail. She had worked in the Nova Institution, the women's federal prison in Truro, and she had a number of stories to tell me about. Provided some background. She knew Alana Jenkins, one of the victims, had worked with her. They even been to her house in Wentworth prior to the massacres. Knew Sean McLeod, who was also a guard there, and what's generally over the years given me insight into what was going on in the jails. One of many, in fact, who was doing that. And she had some personal issues, but I never really paid attention to the personal issues until the last couple of weeks, and you'll see why. And
Yeah, it's a no, it's an important story, a serious story there. Just waiting for her to join us there.
and I think we should be warn the people watching this. It could be
Well,
traumatic.
I guess we should do that maybe before Melissa joins us, Paul, is
Yeah.
say like for, you know, it's a serious story. It deals with death, and so, just people should be be aware of that before we go on here. She shared some of these details with us beforehand, so
Yeah.
that's so we're speaking of which we know. So there she is there, Paul, and so I'll welcome her in right now.
Okay.
Right. So we're just
Your microphone's
waiting
off.
for waiting for Melissa to get the microphone going there. Melissa, if you can see us but not hear us, yeah, I think you're muted there. So just get your microphone on there, please. There you go.
Better? Yeah.
Yes.
Too many devices for too many things.
Yeah, it's a lot of things to charge.
Is your camera on?
Um, oh, there it is. How's that?
There you are.
Hi,
There I
Melissa.
am. I missed my infusions yesterday, so I'm quasi-vertical, semi-horizontal. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Yep.
that's great, Melissa. Thanks, thanks for that, and thank you very much for joining us here on the show. I guess you're a viewer of some time, are you, or you've seen some of the
Long
shows?
time.
Yeah,
Long
excellent.
time.
Well, thanks for that.
I just hello, Melissa. We haven't talked face to face. We always talked in one way or the other. Um, I introduced you saying we first met sort of as you contacted me in 2022, and I worked. I listened to you about your experiences and various things, including working in the women's prison in Truro, the Nova Institute. Maybe a way to understand that, I would have liked to talk to, there's so much to talk about in the prisons. Uh, and we've talked about it this week. I mean, you passed things on to me about what a boondoggle it is there. And you're not the only one. But the reason we're here is more than talking about the prisons. Why don't you tell people what your next week is?
Um, my next week is going to be shuttling to Halifax Tuesday morning at 6:30, and I have an appointment with my new pain doctor at 3 o'clock. And I think we're expecting snow here, so it might be a tight squeeze to get there in time. Um, it took me quite a while last week to try to figure out the dates that workers' comp approved the hotel room for, so I could book the shuttle, book my travel. Because shuttles here in the winter fill up really quick. And I mean, I'm a Cape Breton, so we're a totally different temperate zone down here. So next week I'll go up to Halifax and I'm getting some nerve blocks done in the back of my head, probably my neck. Um, this is only my second time seeing this pain doctor. I've been waiting to see her since the end of August. So, and I had blocks up my nose as well. So I expect I'll be getting the same again. And then my GP is still in Halifax because I lived in Halifax for 20 years. And when I had to move back home in 2022, I was keeping my doctor. I couldn't. And I mean, we're in the middle of everything's a crisis. So I kept her and she wanted to see me before I went back. And because a lot of my doctor time up there is spent with workers' comp semantics and paperwork. That's what a lot of it is. and I don't get my health issues addressed because we only have a certain amount of time to see our doctors. And by the time I get to see, the only appointment she had was Friday at 10:15, and checkout time is 11:30. Shuttle picks you up at noon. That doesn't give me a whole lot of time to go back and forth. So like I had to literally fight to stay an extra day, just to even get some rest after getting these treatments and stuff. Like it's just one thing after the other.
You told me previously you were going into MAiD, medical
Yeah,
assistance in dying.
yeah. I was approved. Um, I would like to protect the doctor due to the fact that a lot of people don't understand the program itself, and just for those reasons itself. And um, I was approved, and I had sent the approval to workers' comp, and they had a bunch of recommendations themselves. And workers' comp basically, I think they may have thought they just got a long-winded neurology report, but after reading it, I can't see how.
So are you going through MAiD or not?
Yeah.
When are you going?
I'm supposed to turn 57 on June 20th, so it'll be June 19th.
Oh, June 19th.
That's I mean, it's a sad thing, Melissa. I just say I familiar with the report and having read it. Are you saying that workers' compensation has read this report?
Yes.
I read that report and it told me that as long as if you had funding for some treatment, that your pain and your condition could be managed in a way that would probably have you not going through that process.
Yeah.
And it was really, and the doctor said it a few times in the report. I won't go through all the treatments, but I, I
They were
was
they were quite specific.
I was very, I will say, I was very impressed with this report, the way it was written. I mean, it's clinical. It went through every treatment that you've undergone, every medication that you've attempted, everything that you've done to manage this pain condition. And it said, well, the way I read the conclusion, the only thing that seemed to work for you was sort of off-market, stronger cannabis, but that did work, but nobody will pay for it. And that just seems ludicrous that
Yeah.
that's the
But I'm
situation
on all
you're
kinds
in.
of other more dangerous medications that, and now they're covering nabalone, which is synthetic. That's not even in the same ballpark.
Like in these other medications, I'd be very curious to know their expense because every once in a while you hear in the news, oh, this medication or that medication could be approved or might not be approved, but it's like $25,000 per treatment or like these exorbitant costs. And some people get, they have to travel for treatment and such. Yours just seems like somebody needs to go to the res. Like, I don't want to put it, I don't want to, I'm not making light of it
That's
in
what
any
I do
way.
now.
Yeah.
That's what like I like Adam through the whole process because I fought for approval for coverage from workers' comp for it,
Yeah.
and I won coverage. And it's when you set precedents and stuff, like that's not great either. But I was approved, but at the time they had no policy. They had no policy in effect whatsoever when I was won my tribunal. So they were just going with whatever my doctor was prescribing.
Yeah.
But over time, like any other medication, everything increases. And all my other meds, like the other, I call them more dangerous meds, the pharmaceuticals, they've increased over time as well. And I've never needed one tribunal for those.
Horrible side effects and everything on them too, I'm sure. But
Well,
and
yeah.
all described
Let's
in the report.
let's go back and talk about how you got here. So you
I
had
was
your first you worked in the I was reading your biography that you worked at a liquor store in 1993 and were a victim of sexual harassment. Um, then later, you were working as a psychiatric nurse. Tell us what happened there.
Um, do you want details on what went
Just
down
a
or
brief detail. You were involved in there was a scuffle in the psychiatric ward, and a man was out of control, and you intervened to help someone.
there was a patient who was they let him out in the day room for a while just to see how he would do. They were monitoring him. Um, I was at the desk at that time and I had my glasses on, just like this. And um, I was reporting what would had just we had just let him out, what the plan was. And I heard crash, bang, boom. I looked down, I put my glasses up like this, and I went over the desk and down the hall. And when I got there, he was throwing chairs around, like there was 2 foot holes in the wall. And when it was all glass, and when I looked across, I saw an elderly lady in the corner, huddled down, and I thought, oh my God. And I just ran it without even, I just ran in and grabbed her. And when I was running to the door with her, I could see the faces of my coworkers through the glass when like it was all glass. And I could see all their faces drop. So I knew some as I'm running with her in my arms, I knew something was going on behind me that I was not aware of. And I didn't know if it was a knife from the kitchen. What was it? Then I heard what sounded like at first I thought it was like a helicopter because it was the kind of noise it made. But as it got closer, I knew then I get hit with the chair, and it wasn't like a bingo plastic chair. It was like a dining room wooden chair, and the part that you would rest your back against hit me in the back, and this once which stopped the force of it. Once that hit me, I kind of went down on one knee with her, protecting her, and then once the chair hit me, the back of the chair kind of stopped the chair from going forward, but the seat part of the chair kind of come down on top of my head because it smashed my glasses were just smashed everywhere. And then once I got up, got her out of there. And
And then you had a concussion from that.
oh, I got my bell rung. Oh yeah.
What kind of tests did you have after that?
Multiple, like multiple tests. Like I've seen some of the top specialists in the province. I've seen, like, we've got some really good doctors here. But the issue is once it ends up back to workers' compensation, that's where everything ends. Because they refuse to even acknowledge it as an injury until almost 2010.
Why was it difficult to diagnose from their perspective, do you think? I mean, your doctor's concussion is not a complicated thing to diagnose in a way, is it?
No, no. I mean, I was a
You had
nurse.
witnesses to the event itself?
Yeah.
So this is
I
it's since I've been talking to you, I've been talking to a lot of more people about workers' compensation. I was talking to a physiotherapist or a massage therapist the other day and bringing up your case, and the massage therapist says, I know of a number of cases where people committed suicide trying to deal with workers' compensation.
too many. I know too many too.
You know too many too. So this,
Because I also help other people because try to navigate the system because I know how difficult it can be. And when you're injured and they're trying to put you back to work, and because that's all they're worried about is getting you back to work, getting you back to work, whether you're ready to go back to work or not. And even like my own doctor was saying for the longest time, she is not ready to go back to work. And it was either my employer or them or both were saying she's going back to work.
When I read the
And I'm
report, though, Melissa, it seems like you're doing fine. You'd be doing well to get up and make breakfast. That the pain is that constant and significant. I mean, it's
well,
the brain, these nerve issues, right?
that's my breakfast right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no joke.
Even
That's my
chewing, right?
breakfast.
Like hard food is
Barely.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Because with the head injury and stuff, I ended up with bruxism. Like I don't even have any back teeth from here back because I've
Yeah.
broken them off, grinding my teeth.
Yeah,
Like PTS.
the neurologist report, and you read it, Adam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It points to other injuries inside your brain and things that should be investigated.
Yes.
And the report from the WCB doctor just said, "Oh no, they're basically painting you as a malingerer,
Exactly. Or like a repeat offender.
a repeat
But I
offender."
wasn't
Because
working at,
you had other injuries. We're going to get
yeah,
into.
but I didn't work at McDonald's. I worked on the Abbey Lane. I was a nurse at the healthcare unit in Burnside. I worked on the
Which is the
MILU,
jail, the
which is
Burnside jail.
with
Yeah.
Burnside Jail. I worked in forensics. I worked at the MIOU. And I was one of those nurses that didn't stand, like if stuff went sideways, I didn't just stand there. Like it, because you can't, because we had was commissionaires that were 7 floors down. We had no security at that time, nothing there. That's why I left there because and went to work in corrections because I actually felt safer working at the Burnside jail in healthcare in that type of environment because it was more paramilitary than at that level than I did in healthcare. And I needed to know, do I still want to be a nurse? Is it worth it? Or because at that time, workers' comp wasn't even accepted as an injury. And in the actual report, injury report itself, it says it was a very close call.
Like to me, it takes a special kind of person to work in those situations because you're dealing with the most difficult of people, and maybe more so in the hospital situation, Melissa. I mean, they're not predictable.
Well, and but I enjoyed it, and I was, and you know what, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I was good at it because I was good interpersonally and with nonviolent crisis intervention and all that stuff. And I was always a people person. And that's why people were telling me when Nova was hiring that I should apply because I had a psych background, I had all this stuff. They should apply. So I did, and I was gone, hired immediately.
Nova being the women's institution, federal women's institution in Truro.
Yes.
And what did you do there?
I was a CX2 in a structured living environment.
CX2 being a corrections officer.
Yep. And we did case management at that level as well. A lot of case management.
So, Melissa, I mean, you felt you were good at your job. You found it fulfilling. It gave you some responsibility and a place to do, like a place to be. It doesn't strike me, and I can't imagine how it would strike workers' compensation that you'd be malingering and wanting to just sort of stay home and, and just vegetate.
No.
Like, why would they think you would want to do that?
A lot of the information they send forward is very cherry picked. And when I was in, I had what happened that with my injury, my last injury at Nova, when I was assaulted by the woman there, um, I was forced back too early after an ankle injury, and I was accused of malingering on the ankle injury because of my balance. But I had come to find out that no one told the physiotherapist who was dealing with my ankle that I had had a concussion in 2006.
And you had lingering evidence of brain damage from that
Yes,
concussion, according to
yes,
the neurological report.
yes.
You're not making it up. The
No,
neurologist basically lays this all out.
it's all there. And you know what? The other thing that struck me, Melissa, is that part of the problem with having that kind of an injury is that going through the bureaucracy, the paperwork, all of that stuff
Makes
I mean, which is energy sapping to anybody. It would be particularly the case to you.
it's mentally and physically exhausting.
Okay, getting
It
back to the ankle injury before we get to the next one. I saw the pictures. You showed me the pictures from the
oh,
time. Um,
it
your
still swells up.
your foot looked like to me it looked like if I looked at that, I'd say your foot looks broken because of the massive swelling and the massive bruising all through the foot.
Mhm.
It didn't even hardly look like a foot. It was so swollen. And
Mhm.
you're saying that you went off on that, so that would be your second strike on workman's compensation.
Well, actually, my third because of the sexual harassment one years
Oh, the
earlier.
sexual harassment
Because
one was this.
that set a precedent.
In what way?
And that was one of the first sexual harassment claims ever approved by workers' compensation in the province.
Hmm.
NSGEU actually, because they said it's happening too often. And it was, oh, clear cut, no.
They supported your application or
Oh no,
the complaint process? Oh, they
they
did.
fought me through that too.
Oh, okay.
And you know what?
Of
You'll
course.
get a kick out of this. You guys
Yeah.
will get a kick out of this because up until 2023, they didn't accept the PTSD, but anytime PTSD come up, they would say, well, that's because of your sexual harassment at the liquor store. And I'm like, that was workplace too. So like pick
Yeah.
a lane, Joe.
Yeah.
So then you came back with they forced you back to work with the ankle injury, and you were back,
Yeah,
what, 3 days?
if that.
And what happened?
Um, one of the women who I was familiar with from GP, but not familiar with having on the unit in the structured living environment, it was more for mental health, substance abuse, people that needed like we taught me and there was only one CX on the unit and we had a behavioral counselor. That was it. And there was at that time there was four women on one side and four women on the other side. And we were the furthest responding point from the main building. Now I know a lot of that's changed since then, but at that time that's how it was. And I was placed there due to my background. And on this day, it was my within a couple of days of coming back, this woman was called down to her parole officer's office and informed. I believe she had just been to court and her sentence had been extended. I might be wrong there. I'm not sure because there was so much going on at the time, me trying to figure out what happened. But she had been told that she was going to lose her kids. And she went after the parole officer, took a few PWs to get them off them. Then whoever was in charge that day made the call just to send her back to the unit. And she came back on the unit. She was really upset. I did the regular non-voice, talk them down, did the whole thing we're normally supposed to do. And we came to an agreement that she was just going to calm down, take a bath, and she was going to listen to the ghetto blaster low outside the bathroom door. I said, you can't plug it inside. You got to have it plugged in outside. And that was an agreement, but I had to go down three times to tell her to turn it down. And I told her the last time if I have to, because I couldn't even hear my radio. And we had other women on the unit that were complaining too. So I went down and I said, okay, you got to keep it down. If you don't, I'm going to have to come down and take it. So it was okay for a little bit. And then the volume was way up again. So I went down and when I reached down to unplug it, the door flung open. She grabbed me by the right arm and tried to she tried to pull me to the bathroom. And all I could see over her shoulder, I couldn't plant my right foot because my right foot was still all banged up. And all I could see over her shoulder was a tub full of water and a razor. And it was Friday at 5 o'clock. I knew maintenance was gone home. It was going to take them at least a half hour to get back. And we didn't have a key to get in there. Once they're in there and that bathroom door is locked, we didn't have a key to get in there.
And
Because
what
that was
happened to
one of the,
what injury did you get there?
um, I ended up with long thoracic nerve palsy, my shoulder. I've never seen, even as a nurse, I've never seen even though it was my own arm, I've never seen an arm with a palm pointed in that direction. By the time I did like finally have to plant my foot and grab like literally grab the door casing like this by my fingers and give one big pull, then she went into her cell and then ran in and locked the door. But after that, I just ran to the office, called down, told them what happened, and they said, we've got something going on in Max. Can you wait 10 minutes? I said, I guess I don't have much of a choice, do I? And my arm was like, like my palm on my arm, like even though my arm was down, the palm was like this. Like it was all twisted around. And my shoulder blade was like this. Like completely like when cheetahs walk and they got that's
Yeah.
the way my shoulder blade was. And there's 7 other women on the unit. And I'm there like so I just Mel Gibson slammed my thing into the wall and put it back in place. And then a few minutes later everybody else arrived.
So you
What
were
kind of
exposed at that point to 7 inmates? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a behavioral counselor on who was filling in for the behavioral counselor on the unit at the time because they switched off with another unit. But she had gone out to the bathroom, which is
Okay.
behind 2 sets of locked doors, and didn't tell me she was going. So, as far as I knew, she was there because after it had all happened and the woman had run back into her cell and locked herself in. I looked down the hall and then she was standing there looking at me with her mouth almost to the ground.
So what was the lasting injury from there, and did that force you off on workman's compensation again?
That was the last one, and I tried to go back 5 times. I did. Like I really tried to go back 5 times.
Go to work.
Oh, back to work, yeah. I had yeah, but between workers' comp and my, because see, what happened was after I was injured, the employer said they wouldn't consider that an assault, and they were trying to downplay everything. And I'm like, hang on a second, this is not kosher. And I said, because if we're spit on, if this happens, you drilled the law and human rights into our heads in CTP, and now you're trying to tell me that it's wrong, that didn't happen, that's not an assault. Like, come on.
What what else could it possibly, how could else could you define it really? But
Yeah.
Melissa, when I look through the MAiD report, it seems to focus mostly on your head injury. Obviously, the other injuries are serious and important and all that stuff, but wouldn't tend to lead to a MAiD application or
Mhm.
approval. Uh, the head injury seems like it's started off bad and has gotten progressively worse. Is that fair to say, or how would you frame it?
That's an accurate description. And the ankle injury completely disappeared. It's like it never even happened. And I haven't had my shoulder treated in any way, shape, or form since 2018 because there's so much. You know how Veterans Affairs used to pile stuff on the veterans to try to get them to just get so caught up in the entanglement of trying to get stuff sorted that you get so much dumped on you that by the time you get to the issue you were originally dealing with, now there's 6 more things that you've got to deal with.
Yeah.
Like that's yeah.
Well, that was Melissa. I was involved in the Desmond Inquiry, as you may know, but that Veterans Affairs was a major focus of that. And this, the workers' compensation, if they're behaving like this with you, somebody who's on the verge of a MAiD appointment, and they're treating you like this, then to me, they're delving into that same territory as far as a bureaucracy that's supposed to be helping people.
Well, they threatened to cut off my necessaries of life if I continued to talk publicly about it because they said I was making them look bad. So I'm like,
Well, I read, we both read the MAiD report, and the MAiD report was pretty thorough and damning of the WCB. I think they say something like, "We've never seen someone treated so badly." And that when I look at it, and having never really talked to you face to face before, but only on the phone, when you first mentioned MAiD a couple of years ago, I thought, well, you're just another, many distressed people come to me, and it's hard to figure out who's got a real problem or who's one of the 70 Mounties who took off the summer because they were stressed by the massacres in Nova Scotia and they did nothing. So, it's trying to figure out who's got a real problem here and who hasn't. And then it became clear to me in the last little while that, wait, you're serious. Like, as I said to you, are you sure you want to do this? To go through MAiD, which is, medically assisted,
Medical
ventilated
assistance in
assisted
dying,
death.
yeah. Yeah.
Uh, are you sure you want to go through this?
Mhm.
How
I'm
bad?
tired.
Hmm?
I'm tired. It, up until, well, when I saw my doctor 2 weeks ago, my re she re-subscribed cannabis again, and I got a letter from Blue Cross last week that gave me actually a lower prescription and a lower percentage than I originally that I won a tribunal. I self-represented at a tribunal in 2023, and I won that tribunal to increase it, and I won the magic butter machine to make what I needed because I was making I when I first became a patient, I was still employed, so I couldn't exactly go to people and say, how do I do this? I had to research it all myself. So a lot of it came from my nursing knowledge, pharmaceutical stuff, research, taking courses. And at the end of it, I was making my own bath bombs that if I was really sore, I could just throw one in the tub and go lay in the tub. But if I'm laying in the tub, it's not going to my bloodstream. It's not doing anything, or even my topicals. Like if I'm making a cream for my shoulder or my neck or my jaws or anything like that, like that's not gonna. And half of my prescription is THCA, which is really I can compare it to like a super ibuprofen because it prevents inflammation down the road, which will prevent pain.
In their
So
report, they cut back on the THC and the cannabinoids, and gave you a lesser dose. They approved a lesser dose, almost as if they're disapproving. They think you're just sitting back getting high.
oh,
Um, Describe you're what, 5'8", 5'9"?
I was 5'9", now I'm 5'6".
Oh, so you were 5'9", so you're shrunk. You were 140
Osteoporosis.
pounds or so.
What's that?
You were around 140 pounds when back in the day.
I think a couple of days before I got hurt, I almost bench pressed my body weight, so I wasn't small. Like seriously, like I was active going. I varied 140 to 160.
And what are
Like
you
I was
now?
never small. I'm Today I weighed in at 90.4. I was down to 84 over the holidays, after the holidays.
Wow, that's a huge weight loss. And again, like there's no way anybody would choose to do this.
Well,
Uh,
at the time too, I was going through withdrawal
yeah.
because workers' comp didn't approve something. So I was supposed to be tapering off of the opioids, and because they didn't approve the replacement for it, I was stuck with a minimal amount and I was withdrawing from that drug and opioids at the same time over the holidays.
So that's great. They'll give you highly addictive opioids, but not stronger cannabis.
Benzodiazepines, you name it, they'll pay for. Well, actually, the Navalone I have, because I figured you might ask that question. I have the Navalone here, and the cost of the Navalone is $980.91.
How long does that do for you?
60 days.
So all right, so
And
five
that,
hundred
and
dollars a month roughly, for that. You can,
and it doesn't really do much, no.
yeah.
Because I
Um,
already trialed this med and I maxed out at 6 milligrams in 2012. That's why they switched me over to the actual plan.
Well,
anyway, I mean, I don't.
you also showed me a receipt for opioids, like $20 for the prescription, because they won't pay for something more effective, or so they're giving you an addictive drug that's cheap rather than something that actually works.
You know, yeah, this isn't. We didn't design this to be an advertisement or whatever promotional for cannabis, but I mean, this is
No.
just how it works in your case. I mean, most of the time, and I'm fully in favor of the MAiD regime, and it's gone to the Supreme Court of Canada, and the arguments have all been made from every angle. When something's irremediable, something that can't be fixed, it's usually that somebody's in an advanced stage of, say, Alzheimer's or MS or something like that. Well, it can't be fixed. There's no cure for it, and medical science has only gone so far. And, maybe in the future there'll be a way to treat this, but there isn't now. Uh, that's not quite exactly what you're dealing with, Melissa. I mean, maybe that to actually neurologically fix your brain, maybe we're
Mm,
not there yet, but to treat the
no.
pain, there seems to be an option.
For quality of life, we
Yeah.
are. We
Yeah.
can, yes.
But nobody will pay for it. That's the situation. Boy.
I know others that are getting up to 10 grams a day that they're paying for, and I actually helped them obtain that through education research and my own tribunal win, because they were using, there are other people I've used my tribunal win that's at the precedent, that some of them get up to 10 grams a day covered.
That's good. And have you spoken to some of them and help them in that sense, like directly telling them how to work the system thing? Yeah.
Now I can name names, yeah.
Yeah, and that's important to help each other out too, because it is a complicated way to get things.
And some of them don't know how to navigate the system.
Yeah.
They're being told by their case managers, we don't cover that. And I'm like, they do. And it just, I don't understand.
So it
There's zero.
comes down to, like as you were saying, WCB basically operates like it's supposed to be there for workers' compensation, but it acts like it doesn't want anyone receiving compensation.
Well,
And
I
that,
was told they were an insurance company.
yeah.
I was told by them themselves that they're basically just an insurance company.
And one of the problems they have, I mean, I know in Nova Scotia, in the 26 years I've been in Nova Scotia, I've joked about having workers in my employee. I've had at least two women working for us where I could almost see that they were trying to set me up or set me and Sharon up for a back injury so they can go on workman's comp. And one did it, filed a complaint, and fortunately for us, the next weekend, put on Facebook that she had cut and stacked with her partner 5 cords of wood and brought them into the basement and put it on Facebook. So it proved that she didn't have a back injury. But and another one did the same thing and tried the same thing, and she quit and went to work for someone else and had a slip and fall and was on workman's comp for a year. The question is, there's so much of this sort of larceny going on, it appears, in Nova Scotia, among places, probably elsewhere, that the Workmen's Compensation Board has to be sort of in a defensive mode, I would think. And it makes them what? Would you agree? Makes them incapable of seeing the real cases sometimes,
Mhm.
or is there something else going on?
Um, I think they're capable enough. I mean, they have medical advisors on board, so they're capable. I was a nurse. I could tell by certain injuries if they were going to be long-term issues, if they were going to be expensive, if they were going to be long-term, with damage. Um, there's a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot of people there. A lot of times the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, but I think at the end of the day, it's just if they really need it, they'll fight hard enough for it, and they'll make you fight for it.
They'll make you fight for it.
Yeah. Like, yeah, at the core of it, Melissa. So what do you think is the issue? Because I mean, we talked about the cost of some of your other drugs. Well, the one that would help you is maybe not as expensive as those things. So is it short-sighted financial consideration on their part that they don't get that, they don't care, or is it just an aversion to cannabis as compared to prescription medication otherwise?
I think it's lack of education and ignorance just on their part, because I don't even think they like like I don't think a lot of them even know what the endocannabinoid system even is,
Yeah.
let alone how it functions or what it does. So I've won 12 out of 13 tribunals, and my last tribunal, I might as well be sitting here talking about UFOs. I
Because
said,
no,
because that's
because at least your doctor doesn't seem it does, and the listing off the treatments that you've received, it seems like nobody's really doubting that you have the condition of any, nobody's doubting that part. Maybe workers'
never did.
compensation is, but nobody else is.
No,
And it's just a matter of, well, are we going to do this treatment or the other treatment? And they don't approve it, so off you go. How many cord of wood did you stack this year?
not a one.
Not
But you see the argument where there are malingerers all
Oh
around who are
yeah.
taking advantage of
Like
the
I
system.
trust me, they contact me. I've had people like even because I've been in media things and different things and stuff, and there's people out there, oh, she won cannabis and stuff like this. So like I have people contacting me looking for help too, and I've got to like since probably 2018, 17, since I think CBC did the first article or whatever, but since then, like I've got people reaching out to me asking for help, and I'm thinking I have to figure out, okay, are you, because I only have, I can't, like, I don't have a whole lot of energy and I still have my own stuff to look after. But if you're new and trying to navigate the system, I can help you navigate that. And then once you do it once, then it's pretty much standard after that. But I had to figure out who was trying to schmooze and who wasn't too. And any system you're going to find them. They're anywhere.
Sounds like you're doing nursing work right up as long as you can, Melissa. That's effectively what it is in a certain way. I mean, you're helping people through a medical situation, if whether it's the bureaucracy or more directly as you used to be. Uh, we have a few minutes left here, Paul. What other, I guess, anything else that you're looking to know? I have
Well,
I have
I just
a
look
whole
at,
lot of questions, but
like from like from talking to Melissa, like you live in Dominion, which is outside of Sydney, Nova Scotia, and Cape Breton. You're coming down Sunday on the shuttle by yourself. Do you have anybody with you to take care of you? When you
On
go through
Tuesday.
MAiD, what are your expectations going through MAiD? I mean, not the end result, but are you going to change your mind or what? And do you have to
Um,
clear you?
I was hoping that because it seems like for the past 10 years, all I've had to do was prove how damaged and broken and sore I am. And they won't listen. They won't listen to me. They won't listen to the doctors. They won't listen to the specialists. Like they won't listen to anybody. So I don't know if this is a personal agenda of a crown corporation against like an 88-pound woman or what the hell. I really don't understand it. But I do know as a nurse that now that I have not just the injuries, I have a heart murmur, I have osteoporosis in my whole body, and my left hip that's opposite my right ankle because I stand hip shot. That's negative 3.7. I won't be able I won't survive any like major surgeries. If I slipped and fell out there tomorrow, you know what I mean? And as a nurse, I know once the body reaches a certain point, it's really hard to come back from. And I know because I've almost been there a couple of times already because of this. But I've managed to rally. And this time, I don't think I have it in me. I really don't.
Is there anyone there with you?
And here, no,
Yeah.
no, just me.
Well, your father lives across the street,
Yeah, yeah.
so you have someone nearby, but it must
I
be
have
hard on
someone nearby.
it must be really hard on them.
Well, I can't imagine what it'd be like for a parent. Like it's on my grandmother used to call it in the Cape Breton way, it's unnatural. It's unnatural for a parent to lose a child. It's reversed. It shouldn't happen that way. And I mean, I can try to hold on, but I mean that would be like trying to Like we have more compassion for animals than we do for people these days. And I'm not talking about my family, I'm just talking in general. But I can't imagine how hard it is for them to, because I mean, they raised me to be independent and, like any parent would. And they watch me fight. They watch me go through all this. My doctors have watched me go through all this. And just depend.
Well, it's hard on the people around, anytime somebody leaves us, but especially when they leave way too young, it's hard on the people around it. But you have to live your own life too.
And like it's getting to the point now where I can't can't make plans for tomorrow or the next day because I might wake up tomorrow with a pounding headache and I might be down for 2 days.
You've got a special bed there, I could see.
My doctor told workers' compensation that I needed one, and they said, no, I don't. They don't have enough medical information to state why I need one. So this is what I bought myself for Christmas. It's a Juno adjustable bed, and I have it in zero gravity mode, so I kind of feel like I'm floating. So it's a little bit easier for my pain, as long as we don't lose power.
Hmm. How could they not? Just it just befuddles me. How could they? We've read, both Adam and I have read the
Yeah.
reports and the medical reports. It's quite clear that you have, documented medical issues that leave you debilitated. And I see their responses. They just sort of go away. You're a malingerer, basically. But
Yeah,
isn't that summing it up?
pretty much, yeah. In a nutshell.
Oh, I feel so badly for you.
It's yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, anyway, I think it was important, Melissa, to bring this story to the public. I mean, I know you've been doing that, and we this show we're not we're this is a public service in a sense too, just doing this
Mm.
show, but that was part of the idea of bringing you on here is to share your story with more people.
And,
Because
and
I'm not the only one either.
No,
no, you're
absolutely.
not. And one of the things, can you offhand point anyone to your YouTube postings or channels or anyone who
Yeah,
wants to get in touch with you?
I have um when I created the YouTube channel because I was running out of room on my phone. So a lot of it was just posted privately, just so I could have for a later date, just to because of the head injury to remind myself of what they were supposed to do and didn't do or whatnot, right? And just about because I tend not to deal with them on the phone. I don't like to deal with them on the phone because they can push my buttons easier on the phone. And I like things in writing that way. There's a bit of a trail. But um the it's called Jane's Blonde. And I think hold on 1 second. We'll just pull it up really quick.
Jane's Blonde.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
without an
actually,
E. Or is it with an E, Blonde?
there's no E.
Jane's Blonde.
It's Jane's Blonde 3306. Because I
Jane's Blonde
didn't even get a
3306.
like a special one. I just needed a place to put my stuff at. And then once they moved me back in the house in May with no renovations and it was infested and everything else, I just opened the channel wide open and said, no, this is not okay.
Well, I'm sure there's going to be some activity on that channel after this episode is aired, Melissa. It's you know an archive, a place for people to go to get to know you better and see more of your journey.
And I'm not the monster they create me to be because they called me on April 28th, the day of mourning, was the day they told me that I was being evicted from the Airbnb. Because I even asked, I said, the case manager, I said, do you know what today is? And she's like, Monday
You were in an Airbnb paid for by WCB
for
in
14 months.
Halifax.
No, actually it was way out in Port Morion. It was in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, Port
It took me,
Morion on Cape
yeah,
Breton.
yeah, it took me forever to even if I went onto the portal to try to download a PDF file would take me like 2 hours. because they only gave when they agreed to do the renovations, they only gave me a week to find a place to live. We're in a housing crisis. That was the only place available.
It's just endless. It's
Yeah.
look, thank you for being so brave and coming forward and talking about this because I think it's an insight into the world most people hear about, but they never really see it up close. And I think you've done that.
And thank you for having me.
Right, Melissa.
Hey,
All the best to you and whichever direction this goes, and we'll be certainly thinking about you and many others will too.
Thank you. And
and keep in touch.
as long as this heart is ticking, I always reach out because I'm always around.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks again. Well, Paul, that was uh that was heavy. I mean, I think anyway, it's appropriate to give people that warning. A lot of people aren't really don't approve of the medical assistance and dying regime in the country, but it's there, and there's an example there.
I never really came across this before in my own, I have never known anyone until I met Melissa. And then when she brought it up, you could ask, as I said to Sharon, I said that, I didn't even tell her for a couple of weeks what was going on because it was sort of traumatic just trying to digest it all. Like,
Uh, we said it a few times, when you read the report and you think it seems like such a simple solution, and but there it is, and I'm sure others are in the same situation and maybe take some comfort from the story. I don't know, but
well,
that's
it
why we
is.
wanted to cover it.
The medical reports are so damning where the doctors are going, can't they see this? The neurologist is going, you've got this lesion here, you've got this there on your brain. I mean, it's one of the first things I pointed out to Melissa. I said, did you ever have a SPECT scan or anything like that? No, I said, well, because the kind of injury you had would cause damage on the other side of your forehead, at your forehead. She
Yeah,
was hitting the occipital lobe, temporal frontal lobe injuries. That's to be expected. And to have a medical system deny that that exists, I know from my own personal experience and all the research I've done over years, what the outcomes are here, and
it's
it's
kind of
not
common
good.
knowledge, right? I mean, now
Yeah.
with anybody that's watching sports, you see this many cases, and anyway, it's well, sad that it's taken that direction, but you're right. The doctors, they're like, well, we approve her because of this situation. However, if this could be provided, she'd be out of that situation.
And I'm going to say to WCB, if you come down on her because she's talked to us because you don't like the bad publicity, you're going to get more bad
Yeah,
publicity,
really.
So just help her.
That's how that works. All right.
Yeah,
All right. Well, let's leave it there for now, Paul, and we'll be back. I'm sure we'll be getting some reaction on this one, and we'll be back next week with more stories, follow up on Tumbler Ridge, the RCMP, and lots of other things going on too. But that was an important story to tell, and we'll keep in touch with Melissa certainly in the coming months.
for sure.
All right.
See you later.
Bye now.